Chapter 1. The Factory. The boy's eyes snapped open. He was lying face down on a cold, hard, clinical, white-tiled floor. His mind was foggy, unable to hold a clear thought. He had no memories before this moment, no names, no faces, nothing but a fog-filled void. The fog in his mind kept swirling and swimming. Every time he thought he saw a gap in the fog, and a thought clarifying, the fog encased it. Through the fog, a voice whispered, gradually rising to a shout, louder and louder, deafening his senses. His head pounded, as if the words might explode out of his temples and into the air. The voice repeated 3 words. You are Bob. You are Bob. You are Bob. Bob squeezed his eyes shut, trying to control the voice and the pressure it created. Tears squeezed out, wetting his eyelashes. Just as the voice became so loud he might pass out, it faded from a shout to a whisper. The fog cleared, and he held his breath, as if breathing might invite the chaos to return. After a short time, he breathed out, forced his eyes open, and allowed himself to think about moving. He didn't move for quite some time, but he thought about it, which was a start. Eventually, heart still pounding and breath still heavy, he heaved himself up from the tiled floor. His legs protested at the sudden movement, wobbling and stumbling around before regaining stability. Instinctively, he reached into the pocket of his bright yellow raincoat to retrieve a blue inhaler. Bob shook it and put it to his mouth, breathed in and pressed down. The white-tiled floor stretched to the horizon in all directions. At the horizon, the floor and the air above it blurred together in an optical illusion. Nothing broke the flat, white landscape. The air was as bright as the floor, stark and solid white, with no discernible source for the light. The only thing that wasn't floor was a circular void, edged with a metal rim, impossibly suspended in mid-air above his head. Pacing around the giant, vent-like opening, staring into the darkness of the void, Bob spotted tiny dots of light, like pinprick holes in black fabric. Where am I? And what's this vent thing? Bob's palms were sweating, fingers flexing and twitching. What do I do now? He asked aloud. Surprisingly, he received a response. You must discover who you are, a computerized female voice announced, echoing through the empty white space as if coming over a supermarket PA system. Bob startled, searching for the source of the voice, but nothing discernible appeared in the stark white air. Turning on his heel, still trying to locate the voice, Bob asked, Where are you? I can't see you. I am everywhere. Good, not creepy at all. Who am I? I can't remember anything. You must discover who you are. Can't you just tell me? You must discover who you are. This bizarre conversation with the undetectable voice caused the headache to intensify. Will you at least tell me where I am? You are in the factory. The voice wasn't making any sense. How could he discover who he was if he couldn't remember anything? And what sort of factory was empty? Bob was lining up to ask how to go about discovering who he was when the voice spoke again. Please wait for your hex pet. Wait, for my what? The vent started squeaking intermittently, like a child coming down a slide that had been in a playground for years and lost its original shine. The intermittent squeak turned into a long squeak, getting louder until suddenly a little ball of fur fell from the void and landed in Bob's hands. It was tiny, fitting comfortably in one palm. With a slight shiver, the tiny fur ball slowly unfurled, and a miniature dog peered up at him, tongue lolling. The dog's fur was bright white. Putting the dog on the tiled floor might have made it disappear, except that one of the dog's ears shimmered a glittering silver. As the ear caught the light, it sent a rainbow across Bob's hands. The same silver glitter coated the tip of a bushy, fox-like tail. The dog wriggled, and through fear of dropping it, Bob popped it down on the floor, where it began pacing in circles, sniffing, as if searching for buried treasure. Well, you're a curious thing. Bob knew very little about dogs, so he didn't know what type of dog this was. Accessing the archive, please wait, the voice from earlier said. Suddenly, and without warning, images of dogs flooded Bob's vision, spinning around rapidly as if he stood in the eye of a hurricane that whipped up a collection of dog Polaroids. It was nauseating. The little white dog paused as if frozen in time. Occasionally, the odd picture would briefly hesitate in front of Bob before being sucked back into the whirlwind. The pace of the images quickened, faster, faster, until they were almost a blur. Then, all of a sudden, the chaos stopped, and just one image remained, hovering just out of arm's reach. Your dog breed cannot be found in the archive. The closest match is a Border Collie sheepdog. The image showed a proud dog, presumably a Border Collie, sitting in front of a landscape of rolling fields dotted with sheep. It certainly wasn't anything like the tiny ball of fur with the glittery ear. Bob stepped forward, being careful not to stand on the little dog. Tentatively, he reached out a finger and touched the image. It flipped over, revealing a list of stats with a smaller version of the sheepdog image above the list, much like a top trumps card. Intelligence 10, Obedience 93, Cute Factor 1000, Coat Glossiness 14, Hex Code 53 68 65 65 70 20 44 6F 67. Hex Code? Bob asked out loud. The code required to create a Border Collie sheepdog, the voice said. The code required to... Access complete. Returning to the factory, please wait, the PA voice announced. The dog card was sucked back into the hurricane as the images spun, this time in the opposite direction, as if someone had pressed rewind. The images then faded, the nauseating feeling returned, and the tiny white dog unfroze, continuing its pacing and sniffing for treasure. It looked up at Bob, gave a friendly yip, and then sat down, tongue lolling. Crouching, Bob reached out to stroke the dog's head. The dog accepted the attention and then trotted off to play again, returning intermittently for more attention. The little pup was adorable and a good distraction from worrying about who he was, where he was, and what had just happened with the weird dog picture hurricane. Bob broke a smile as the dog rolled over after failing to catch its tail. Spotting a red collar hidden under the dog's fur, Bob reached out to inspect a silver tag attached to the collar. The dog obediently sat still to allow the inspection. Engraved on the tag was the word Bite. Bite. Is that your name, little guy? The small dog responded with an approving yip. I'm Bob. Nice to meet you. Turning the tag over, Bob saw the words, Protect the dog, etched into the metal. Bite tilted his head to inspect Bob. Do you need protecting, Bite? Well, I suppose you are tiny. I'm not sure I'm a protector, though. I've no idea who I am, for a start, or where we are. Bob sighed, shoulders slumping, as a feeling of hopelessness washed over him. I don't suppose you know what to do. Please make your way to the nearest exit, the PA voice answered loudly and suddenly, making Bob jump. Oh, I wish you'd give me some warning next time, Bob exclaimed in his best frustrated tone. Affirmative, the voice replied. Bob looked at Bite and shrugged. Where's the exit? Bob mused, gazing into the endless nothing. Please make your way to the nearest exit. I know you said that already, but where is it? Please make your way to the nearest exit. Where is the exit? Please make your way to the nearest exit. Well, I guess we'll just have to find it on our own, Bite. Bite jumped up excitedly, tail wagging, turning in a circle to do more cute lolling and yipping. I'm not sure which way we should go, though, Bob admitted, trying to suppress a mild panic. Bite yipped and set off across the tiles in a bouncy trot. Well, I suppose that's as good a way as any, Bob shrugged, and followed his new companion. 2 of Bob's footsteps were 10 for little Bite, so he picked up the dog and popped him in the raincoat pocket. Bite seemed happy with this new plan, poking his head and front paws out of the top of the pocket. With a newfound determination, standing up straight and pushing the feeling of hopelessness down, Bob continued into the unending white landscape. To ensure he was heading in a definite direction and not accidentally going diagonally or in a wide circle, Bob decided to follow the straight lines of the tiles. The plan had a fundamental flaw. He didn't know if they were headed towards the exit or away from it, so he avoided thinking about it. Occasionally, Bob glanced to his left and right, hoping to detect objects or signs, but there was nothing but the unending horizon. Bob scratched Bite behind the ear. Despite being terribly lost, at least he had a companion to keep him company.